People who are already in the 1st of January 2020. What is going to happen? So we can try to prevent it? Sorry mate, but I'm not allowed to tell ya. What are the best and worst gifts you gave or received this year? Best gift I gave was a 2-day forge your own chef's knife experience for my boyfriend who loves watching bladdersmiths on YouTube and is a chef. Worst gift I gave was a Primark voucher because my sister-in-law is the hardest to buy for. Worst gift I received was a bag of giant shell pasta from my boyfriend. You're looking out your window and you spot a monkey in the trees, watching you with a pair of binoculars. When you spot him, he gives a military hand signal to several other monkeys and they all disappear into the trees. What do? Call Fallen, open ranks and inspect them. Afterwards, call them in at 0300 for weapons drawer at 0600. What is a red flag? That someone is immature. When they enjoy insulting/roasting people for laughs, but when someone does it to them, they get genuinely angry. What's a story you always wanted to tell on this sub, but nobody ever asked the right question? My family was once rescued from a hurricane by a Colombian drug lord. We lived aboard a boat and our engine went out while Wilma was forming around us. We ended up having to do an emergency tack into a hurricane hole that was in his territory. He helped us fix our engine, gave us advice on our next trek so we could avoid waters that were pirate infested, and invited us to his house for dinner. I wish I knew his name because my family would have been in serious danger were it not for his kindness. What would be a great night plan for an introvert with no friends or family around? I got this one. I have a mason jar in my house, labeled good news goes here. Then all year long, whenever something good happens I write it down on a slip of paper and put it in the jar. On New Year's Eve I buy a bottle of good champagne and then sit in my living room all by myself. I go through all the good news, remembering each one and honoring myself for all my accomplishments. There are also good things I've written down that weren't created by me but made me happy. I've been doing this for 7 years now. I realize it doesn't help opt for this year, but tomorrow everyone can start their own good news jar. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks everyone. I can't figure out how to upload a photo. People have asked what my jar looks like. It's a clear mason jar big enough for a pen to fit inside. I keep little note paper next to it, so it's easy to write something down. It's a habit. If I notice along about September there's not a lot of notes, I'll think back and add some. Don't worry about not having enough good news, I guarantee you will have forgotten about by year's end. Any little thing in your jar will be rewarding and give you all the feels. I'm not an expert at this. It's a learn as you go thing. A couple of people have asked how many good things I have. This year it's 15. It's been a shit year in a lot of ways, but it's also been pretty awesome. I try to focus on that, and the good news jar really helps. What are the downsides of weed that people don't talk about? I can't imagine this will get seen now. However, I'm going to comment because I rarely ever do. I'm in my mid-20s studying to be a professional pilot and have smoked habitually several times a day for the last several years. While I'm still a large advocate for marijuana, I stopped smoking entirely about a month ago because I realized a few things. 1. I became complacent with my life and my surroundings, rarely wanting to make a change in my routine because I knew when I able to spark up. 2. I would spend extra cash on edibles, concentrates, weed, etc. Essentially having extra spending money meant it was going to get me high. 3. I felt as if I would make excuses to not see friends and family so that I would ensure that I would be comfortable and at home with my shit in hand. 4. It becomes a nightly ritual to the point where going to sleep without it sounded impossible. 5. Following #4. You stop dreaming due to the fact that THC hinders REM sleep. I never really understood this until I quit and started having incredibly memorable and vivid dreams. With all that said, I still believe it's a beautiful plant that has wonderful benefits. But if you're at the point where you think that you can't live without it. I need you to know that nothing is healthy in excessive amounts. Edit. If anybody needs help or advice on how to help stop smoking, please feel free to message me. I'm more than happy to help brothers and sisters. What slang can us older relatives use tonight to embarrass the teenagers while opening presents? Sweetie, can you eat me another present? Thanks fam. What product immediately becomes scarier when you put military grade in front of it? Military grade birth control. Redditors who remarried an ex-spouse. Why did you divorce? And how did you get back together? My mom and dad married out of high school. When they were 26 they got divorced. They divorced because of the stress of 3 kids. My dad was in the Air Force and was deployed all the time. And while neither parent has confirmed it, but based on some jokes I believe my dad was also unfaithful, and in general he was just very immature. My mom left him because in her words she had 3 kids to take care of, grad school to get through, and didn't have time for his bullshit. They both went on to have different relationships and lives. They barely saw each other unless it was to trade us kids off. Then around the time my sister and I started playing sports my dad started to come around more to watch us. We lived about 6 hours away and mom let him stay at the house when needed. He went from sleeping on the couch to her bedroom within a football season. They got married again the next summer after 6 to 7 years apart. Been together ever since and practically do everything together. What's your biggest fail when it comes to online dating? Met with a girl at a bar in Philadelphia on a Friday night around 6 p.m. It was fun and we drank a lot, but I noticed that she was pacing much faster than me. I had around 4 beers in the time it took her to drink 7 martinis, $15 a glass. We are getting along well and she says that she needs to use the restroom. She took her jacket and purse to the restroom. I didn't think much of it, but after an hour of sitting at the bar alone waiting I realized that I got used for a heavy pregame. The bartender kinda realized it. When I asked for the tab he shrugged and was like shit happens mate. I took 2 drinks off your tab. What do people waste money on that amazes you? My former boss spent over $1,000 on her Candy Crush addiction. Police officers of Reddit, what's the craziest situation you've been in? Showed up to a call once about a baby crying non-stop for hours and no sign of an adult being home. We went into the house and I followed the sound of the crying baby upstairs to find an 18-month-old with her arms duct taped to her crib. I undid the duct tape and it was obvious this was not the first time it had happened. I brought the child downstairs and outside. The mom was walking up the sidewalk of the housing unit and flipped shit on me. I handed the child off to a patrol and cuffed her. It was the most satisfying clicking of handcuffs I had ever heard. Edit. This happened when I was in the Army as an NP. The father of the child was deployed at the time. From what I heard, he was granted permission to return home and take custody of the child. They got a divorce and I believe he won custody. I don't know what happened to her as far as a sentencing or jail time. Tourists of Reddit, what places should we absolutely visit in Europe? Lake Como, Italy. Possibly the most beautiful place I've ever been. It was a last stop in northern Italy and it was an amazing way to unwind by the water and eat a ton of amazing pizza after a couple weeks of traveling, walking, biking, etc. What's something admirable you can do on Reddit? Help students on r/homework help.